Hello, welcome to the Save Our Children podcast. We're your hosts, Becky and Bridget. Today, we are speaking to freedom fighter and truth teller, Jared James. We started following Jared back in about 2020 as we supported Allie, a survivor we found on Instagram. Jared was the perfect alpha male personality who was speaking about trafficking, the nonsense of COVID, and all the BS that's going on in the world. He is always positive and trying to help others do better. During the pandemic, he would do Instagram stories, helping people think outside the box and figure out ways to start different businesses. Thank you so much, Jared, for joining us on our podcast. Can you give our listeners a little bit of background about yourself? Have you always been this kind of stand up and tell the truth sort of guy?
Well, no, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I haven't always been like this, just like most other people, over the years. Ideally, we get better, we learn things, we grow, we develop. I understand not everyone's like that. But so for me, growing up, I had kind of a, regular childhood, play with friends and shoot basketball and do homework and all this, play video games, all these different things. So I had a pretty regular upbringing. The thing that really shifted my life, my whole focus was when I was a senior in high school. I had been going through kind of a couple years of this, routine of life, we'll call it, where you go to school. I had a job at the time, so I would go to work and then I would do homework, hang out with friends, go to sleep, wake up, do it again. And then just this routine of life, right? That so many people do. So I was doing that for maybe a year or two. And I was a senior in high school. I remember I was sitting in English class. It was probably like 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was literally just like, is this all there is? Is this all that life has to be? Like, is this what I'm looking forward to for the next 50, 60 plus years? Is just this routine? Like, I didn't want to do that. So I didn't know what else there was. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I didn't know anything about, anything really outside of what we're kind of usually taught in schools or kind of basic stuff. So I didn't really know what else was out there, but I just knew I wanted something more than what I was experiencing. So a few weeks after that, I was in Barnes and Nobles and I was looking at like different magazines and I was walking around just looking at books and stuff. And then this book stood out to me and it said, Think and Grow Rich. I'm like, oh, well, that looks interesting, by Napoleon Hill. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, I'm on the right track. Yes, that's what I want. So I look at the book and the first chapter title that I saw said, Thoughts Are Things. And I was like, whoa, thoughts are things. I'm like 17 years old. So I'm like looking at this book. I never even considered that our thoughts were significant or our, emotions had any relevance to our life. I never learned that. So reading this book, which actually came out in the early 1900s, from this guy who studied, Henry Ford and Andrew Carnegie and Thomas Edison, all these people, he invested 25 years to study them and then came out with this book called Think and Grow Rich. So he was talking about how to use the mind, how to use your imagination, the power of a mastermind and working with other people and persistence and decisions and knowing exactly what you want. And so all these things I was learning that from this book where he was learning from all these super successful people, which I never learned about. I never learned, how Henry Ford became so successful or, Albert Einstein and all these people. So as I was reading this book, I'm like, whoa, this is really interesting stuff. Like our mind is a thing. Like that's something I can utilize. Right. What? Right. So I started reading that book and that just became my education. I still went to school and went to college for a few years after that, just because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. But my whole passion was, how can I create something that I want to do? So I learned about entrepreneurship, that was a thing, that I could even like create my own thing. So I just started just thinking of ideas. And it was probably when I was maybe 18 or 19 years old, I had an idea for what turned into be a clothing company, which happened to be my first company. So I started out with a friend of mine. And then from there, after we did that for a few months, we had a website created. And, before that, we were just talking to friends and family. Hey, we got this idea. What do you think? You guys want to buy some shirts? Let's buy, you guys, how many shirts do you want? 2 or 3?
What do you want on it?
Exactly. So then once we got a website built, I had no idea what we were supposed to do with it. I'm like, don't people just buy stuff? Like, isn't this how this works? Like, if you build it, they will come, right? Isn't that the model?
Yeah, right. So why am I not rich yet?
Yeah, exactly. Where's the? I saw these pictures of dollars shooting out of the computer screen. Like, where is this? I'm not getting this yet. So then once we figured that out, I'm like, how do you sell products on the internet? And that was a whole other rabbit hole about internet marketing. And I learned about digital products and all these different things. So that's what kind of got me into online marketing, entrepreneurship, that kind of thing. So from reading Think and Grow Rich and other books, in kind of what people call the new age kind of movement. Like I never even knew that was a derogatory term until people started, you're with the new age stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't understand. So even like certain words, like if someone says like, oh, they said the word consciousness. Oh, you must be a Satan worshiper. It's like consciousness, like look it up in the dictionary. Energy, how is energy? It's what we're all made. I don't understand. So anyway, I have a different perspective than a lot of people. I don't know. But so anyway, I started diving down those rabbit holes of like, how can I utilize my mind? How can I use my energy and focus on what I want? Like goals are a good thing. You focus, you know what you want, you create it. So anyway, so has been my journey for the last like 12, 15 years, something like that, of doing online marketing in different ways, as well as, you know, personal development, learning more about natural health, you know, doing cleanses and detoxes and stuff like that. Finding out, whoa, when you actually take care of your body, your mind can think clearly, you have more energy, you're more enthusiastic, you can, you know, you be more productive, all these good things. So then I realized, oh, the things we put in our body has an effect on our life, right? So started getting more into natural health and all of that stuff. So I was doing that, all those bundled together for a few years. And then, you know, 2020 hit. And then when, you know, Trump said, oh, we got to close the country, 14 days to slow the spread. I'm like, something don't seem right about that. I don't know. I was never into politics. I never followed Trump when he was running for president. The only thing I knew about him was he was an entrepreneur, and you know, he was doing real estate and blah 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 blah, all these other things. So I, you know, heard about him from that, but I never followed him or anything in politics. I think my soul was just like this. Everything politics is horrible. It's not for you, Jared. It's not for you. Go somewhere else. You're meant for something else. So, but anyway, when they, you know, talk about closing the country and then grocery stores saying they need to wear a mask to go in and buy food, I'm like, I know enough about natural health to know if you partially suffocate yourself, you're not helping your health. So that never made sense to me. And then I started, you know, just doing research, because I'm like, okay, well, I know some natural health people. What are they saying about this? What are they saying is going on? So then I just started doing more research and figuring out this whole scam that they've been running. And then from that, I got exposed to like Q stuff and that information. And so I started diving down those rabbit holes of the political corruption and child sex trafficking and all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. And since then, like, that's been my focus. It's like figuring out what's really going on. And does anyone else know what's going on?
I would say, will we ever really find out? Because that is probably, I'm kind of in the same plate where it's like, I mean, even if the whole Q thing, even if 50% of it is true, 50% of it is true. And that is mind blowing. Like, we need to figure this out.
Yeah, exactly. So even, I mean, and again, so many people have different opinions. Is Q real? Is Q different than QAnon? All these different things. So it's like, regardless of whatever the real truth is, let's just take the information that was posted. Let's research it, and then let's just work with that. Like, what difference does it make who it came from? If the articles are real, if what they're talking about is real, if there are survivors that are speaking out that this stuff is real, forget about the messenger. What they're saying and the issues are what we should be focusing on, right? Just like flat earth versus round earth is like, oh, it's like, why is that even a topic of discussion? Like, let's focus on the shape the world is in, not what shape the world is. Like, who cares, right? If all this crazy stuff is going on, what difference does it make, right? So we need to figure out and fix what the issues are on the planet. And then once we have, you know, peace and harmony and all that stuff, sure, let's debate if it's flat or round or whatever. So
someone go up into space and figure it out for us.
Exactly. So anyway, that's a little bit about my backstory.
That's awesome. And there's even pieces that, excuse me, that I didn't know about. But I remember one specific video, and this is kind of where I've been following you since, was literally you were saying, like, we're talking about the patriots versus like everyone who wants to suffocate themselves. Excuse me. And you were saying, like, did you know you could buy a van for like $65,000? And if you charge people and not had them wear a mask and do all this stuff, like, you know how much money you can make? And I'm sitting back like, he's right. How do I get a $65,000 van? Like,
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because, you know, people are talking about, oh, we're gonna segregate people, whether you've had the, you know, injection or not. And I'm like, well, because we're, you know, people talking about like shedding and stuff, you know, transmitting their spikes or whatever. And I'm like, well, maybe segregation is a good thing. Like, maybe forget front of the bus, back of the bus. Let's just have a separate bus. right? Let's just have a separate bus. I'll be on the pure blood bus. That's fine with me. I'll pay I'll pay a premium. I don't care. That's fine. I get to hang out with my crew, my folks.
Right?
Let's do this. It's the party bus everywhere.
We always joke around. We're like, oh man, the FEMA camps. I'm like, but do you know how many cool people will be in the FEMA camps? Like, we'll meet all the people we've never met. It's awesome.
And I think you touched on an important point is people are so worried about who the messenger is and who's involved. And it's like, why does that take the spotlight over, especially when it comes to human trafficking? It's like, why does that take the spotlight over the fact that, did you not just hear what's happening to the children? Like, that is still mind blowing to me, is that no matter what, people still turn a blind eye to it and still want to automatically go to, well, who's the messenger and who's doing it? What politician, what celebrity? It's like, that celebrity and politician don't even care about you. Like, they don't know you in real life, but do you hear the fact that there's news articles, there's survivors speaking out saying that this did happen to me? Can you at least listen for at least 30 seconds, a minute, and see what's going on in the world to even question or start to think for yourself? So I love your content because the way that you put it, you have fun with it and you're making people think. It's like you're leading them to that rabbit hole, and then once they literally jump in, they're like, whoa, like now they're on a whole roller coaster with you. I love it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and for me, it's like I'm on this continuous journey of like learning and researching and figuring out more. So it's like I'm like digging the hole of this rabbit hole, and I'm just like, whoa, what's this thing? I don't know. Hey, I'll post it on like Instagram. Hey, have you guys seen this yet? Like, what is this? Have you heard about this? This is crazy. So I guess just since we're mentioning it, if anyone's watching that's not following me on Instagram, it's at Life by Jared James, at Life by Jared James, just in case people are wondering, like, how do I see what this guy's posting about?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure to put everything in the show notes because
perfect.
You have to follow him.
Perfect.
And too, like, it's interesting because when we got to a point, especially like in even till 2021, we're like, this news is barely coming out. Like, we were talking about that like 6-7 months ago. And so to see like that the news is barely catching up with what we've like known and see all the headlines. But then even for us, there's things where as it's coming out, we're like, wait, there's more. Like, just when you thought human trafficking was bad enough, it's like, but wait, there's more, and then more, and it just keeps going. It's like, it's this never ending little cycle. And it's just like, at what point is enough, and what is it going to take for people to stand up and be like, this is reality? And sad to say that people will always turn to survivors and ask for videos or proof, and it's like, what do you want? Like a rape video? Like, what are you gonna get out of that? What are you looking for?
And it's like, I mean, I'm not a woman, but it's like, even as a man, like who would want to say, yeah, I've been raped by this person and have it be like a lie, unless it's some like media stunt or whatever. But it's like, if you take the grand scheme of things, like, out of all the things you can lie about, is that what a person wants to lie about? And it's like, and then, so when you start connecting dots with like, reading other books of like maybe Fritz Springmeier's work or other people's work, and they talk about, different survivors and what they've dealt with, and you just start connecting dots. You're like, well, how many times do you need to see something before you're like, maybe there's something going on here, right?
Yeah, and that's what we were talking. We were on a live last night, and that's what I was telling the audience there was, you can say trafficking doesn't exist or pedophilia doesn't exist or any of that stuff doesn't exist. There's one or two people. But when you can get people in different countries across different decades with different situations all saying basically the same thing, how do you deny that? I mean, it's really like they were all little or were of some younger age. And you're going to say, well, no, that doesn't exist. But I have 10 other people standing in the corner saying the exact same thing, and they weren't even in the same area.
Right.
Come on, people.
Yeah. It's crazy. And then I forget what it was, but it was one of these schools that had like these, controversy. And then I think there's a documentary about it, but then they were like, the teachers were like, and even it was either an investigator or one of the attorneys or something was like, oh no, the children just said that because they wanted to get attention. I'm like, what are you even talking about? Like, who does that? No one. I don't know any child that's like, oh yeah, this person touched me and hurt me and did this and that. Well, no, I'm just kidding. I just wanted detention. It's like, what?
When they're 5 and 6.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
That's the part, like anybody who has kids or has been around kids or nieces or nephews or whatever, if you talk to a 5 or 6-year-old, their imagination usually goes to unicorns and soldiers or whatever it is that they're playing in their head. Sex and inappropriate things are not part of the standard talk of kids this age. So when they start saying things that you're like, why do you know what that word is? Or where have you heard that? Start listening. It's not, and then for us as other parents or adults to be so, oh, you're right, they must have just been making it up. What are you doing?
No. Yeah. I think as it's such a like horrible reality to face, people are just like, oh no, that's not true. No, that can't be true. That can't be true.
I didn't hear it on the news.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If this was real, I would have saw it on television.
Okay.
It's like, oh my God. I know it's like one of those memes. It's like the calculations, like trying to figure out how to describe what's going on to someone who watches nothing but mainstream media. It's like, oh, how do I put this? What would CNN say? What would CNN say?
Yeah, right. I trust the science. Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah. You're turning green from as much stuff as you put in, but that's cool. Trust the science.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes.
When it comes to all the new age stuff, how do you feel about that? Because I know that even like terminology and different things have been thrown out there where people are like even using the words manifest or vibe, or even speaking with survivors and satanic ritual abuse. What would be your take on, because especially as we've learned more about satanic ritual abuse, some of those items as far as like the black magic and the spirituality side of it, whether it's crystals or different terminology, people are like, oh my God, you're a Satanist, or oh, that's new age. So what have you learned, and how do you kind of navigate through that, or like decipher like your true thoughts and feelings on all of that new age stuff?
Yeah, for sure. And so for me, I kind of, as I mentioned before, it's like with the new age stuff, I didn't even realize that was like a controversial topic until recently. So I'm like, okay, I've heard people talk about, oh, the CIA started the new age movement, but I never had any like facts or, real information about that. So I just, again, started doing some research, and I've, dove down some rabbit holes. And then, we've probably heard, or a lot of people have probably heard that like the drug movement in the 60s and the whole freedom movement was, co-opted and brought through by the CIA and all their drug trafficking and so forth. So, I mean, that's somewhat easier to discern as far as like, okay, MK Ultra and all these like mind experiment programs from the CIA and other groups or whatever started in the 50s. So they started doing drug experiments and all these things with people. And then 60s, oh, drug explosion. Okay, so it makes sense that maybe they had some stuff, they figured out a few things, they wanted to shift, or as people would say, counter culture. That was literally a term. They want to counter culture, the culture that was, they wanted to counter it. So they perhaps used all these different drugs and things and other teachings and stuff to shift the focus of humanity. So that's believable. So then I started researching, okay, well, what about like, the new age, books and movements and this and that. And what I found out was one very popular book in, I guess the new age movement is A Course in Miracles. And I found out that one of the guys that brought that book out was an MK Ultra programmer. I'm like, what? And he even admits in his autobiography that he worked with the CIA in the 50s and he worked with this other guy. They call it personality. Oh, he did personality tests. But of course, they're not going to tell you what that means. But when you're just reading it on a book, oh, personality. Oh, okay. They want to figure out who acts why and why. But they're not talking about
14 personalities. That's all right.
Exactly. So then I literally, like, the dots connected. I was reading a Fritz Springmeier book, and he was talking about, I think it was in his, so like the Illuminati slave, like how to create a mind control slave or something like that. It was in that book. He mentioned this guy that was in the CIA. I forget the guy's name, but it was in the 1950s. He mentioned his name, and I'm like, And then he said the word personality, and that triggered. I'm like, wait, personality. I was literally just reading about this guy who wrote or co-authored or whatever, A Course in Miracles. So I go to back to his biography, and the guy's name who was in Fritz's book, the CIA guy, was the guy he worked with in the CIA. And the guy who co-authored the Course in Miracles took his work to the next level. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, oh, so I can never read that book. And so that just literally kind of shifted my whole focus. So now with that being said, terms like energy, vibe, like that to me, I know who I am. I'm not a Satan worshiper. I'm not controlled opposition. I'm not an evil person. So if I say the word consciousness or energy or vibes, to me, it's like, I'm just, it's a good thing. It's like if someone has a cell phone, it's like, oh, if a pedophile uses a cell phone, you use a cell phone. Oh, wait a second. Well, whoa. It's like, it's a thing. It's neutral. It's neutral. Right. So certain words, like, in crystals, for example, yes, if crystals are used in satanic ritual abuse, that's horrible. Yes. But a crystal in and of itself it's energy. Like it's a rock, right? So it's like, to me, and again, if a survivor's had those experiences, obviously that association is like, no, that's bad, right? Like candles, no, fire, not good, right? I'm not diminishing that. All I'm saying is, like fire, like electricity, the internet, at times people said this is satanic. Oh, that's the devil. Oh, the telephones. Oh, no, that's Satan. So it's like, how are you gonna, what are you gonna do? So I'm particular with kind of how much of certain words I use, but at the same time, I'm still gonna express myself because I know who I am. I know my heart. I know my intention. So and I'm still, diving down the rabbit hole to see how far that, deep state operation is in New Age. I just kind of more recently stumbled upon that, but
good luck to that.
Right.
Yeah, thanks.
An important word you use is intention. We often say, what is the intent behind the message you're putting out and what is your intention? So I know that we often, especially me, I will say vibe or peace, love, faith. I'll always mix all of that in there. I know we've gotten called witches before in all of this. We've gotten called so much stuff. So it's always nice to see someone who's speaking the truth about these things and get your views and opinions and how you handle it. Because I know for us, we're like, no, we don't worship Satan. Like, we'll speak out and expose it. But for us, it's always like, how do we turn that darkness into light? Yes, we want to share survivor stories and give them and be a voice for the voiceless, but how can we, one, grab more people's attention to really see that this is happening and not turning a blind eye, and turn it to light, like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how to get involved, and shining the light on that, because so many people automatically, yes, there's symbolism. We've all gone down those rabbit holes. It's in plain sight. There's no denying it. If you cannot see what's happening in Hollywood and Disney and the production of everything, people will say, oh, that's art. And it's like, so you're going to let your kid worship Satan? Like, the little cowboy is coming down the stripper pole twerking on Satan. Like, that's not art. And if so, if you're letting your kid watch that and like approving that message, like at the end of the day, what are you allowing? Where's your discernment and what are you allowing to be brought into your home? So for us, it's always about shining the light and what is the intent behind it. So I think that was an important keyword that you used.
Yeah, definitely.
And for me, I struggled with it, to be honest. I struggled with it for a while because I was brought up Catholic. So of course it's the Bible and the Catholic guilt in the church and all the things. And when I started learning about, because you start learning about things like, well, if you stop using fluoride, then your pineal gland will start to decalcify, and then you'll start to have like connection and do all these things. And so then you start doing that and you're like, well, wait a minute. So there's something behind that. What does that mean? And then you start digging deeper, and then there's, oh, well, there could be this, and this. Like, I know, I always talk about my throat chakra and how I'm clearing it out so I can be, my friend Emma calls me savage, but so I can just say what's on my mind and do whatever, and healing those parts and all that stuff. And for me, it was like, but the Bible says this, and this. But then it's like, wait a minute, I'm not idolizing any of this stuff. To me, God, or you want to call it whatever it is, but for me, God gave us all these things to heal us, whether it's herbs and plants, or it's crystals for energy, or it's oils for whatever. And so many people like, oh, but in the Bible it says. First of all, the Bible has been torn apart and ripped apart and created. So what we hear, I'm not saying it's, and don't hear what I'm not saying, that there aren't good parts of it and there aren't all the things, but there are books taken out of it and we don't know all of what's supposed to be there. Mm-hmm. So just because, if that's what you want to believe, great, be a good person, you believe that, but then if you want to believe other things, don't change people's energy, because that's not what you understand this to be. Because I will go out, I have crystals all over my house, I have bracelets on, I have all the things, and every full moon I'll take them outside and I will pray and I'll say, God, please give these crystals the energy you need for our family to do whatever. And I let the earth power them with what it is, but it's with the understanding for me that God is powering it and it is what it is. And so I think we have this misconception that if you're new age, you're evil. But for me, it's definitely, and it took me a long time to weave my way through the Catholic guilt of all the things of, you know what? No, why wouldn't God give us what we need to heal? Why wouldn't it be in the universe? And why wouldn't we have this power? And why wouldn't these really evil people not want us to know this?
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that I'll mention, kind of on the new age tip or topic, one thing that is pretty popular in the new age movement, I guess probably even outside of that, but it's like, oh, just focus on the good, just focus on the positive. If it's negative or it feels bad, nope, we don't want to focus on it. So that to me, kind of hindsight, definitely feels like a manipulated mindset to control people to not focus on anything bad that's going on, so that it just continues, right? Like if we look at our voting systems or child sex trafficking or these things, we haven't focused on that for the last 50 years, and look where we are, right? And so I think that's definitely a manipulated concept to get people to be like, oh no, that doesn't feel good, I'm not going to focus on that. Oh, children are being kidnapped, oh no, that's not in my happy space, so I'm sorry, just tell them to smile and feel good, it'll work out. So I think yeah, exactly. So I think we definitely need to we always need to re-examine our beliefs and what we're looking at, because that was even the thing for me. Like I've been programmed like, oh yeah, just focus on the good and what we want and this and that. But then I had to realize, like, wait a second, like this stuff's going on. We can't just ignore it. Like if you know something's going on, like if you know someone's being hurt and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go about my day. It's like, how do you even feel good about that? Like how can you just sweep that under the rug? So I don't know. So it's definitely important to, audit our thoughts, audit our beliefs. Like what is it we're focusing on? Why are we doing what we do? And also being open to change. As we hear and learn more about things that are going on, Disney and other things, it's like, are you still watching those movies? Are you paying for the Disney whatever? Do you know what Disney owns? Are you watching them? Are you giving them your attention? Are you following these celebrities? So for me, I mean, everyone can do something, and I think everyone can probably do more to help end child sex trafficking specifically, but other things. But with child sex trafficking, it's like, stop giving them your attention. I don't pay attention to anything with pretty much any celebrities. I don't care if they've been on Epstein's plane or not. If they're a celebrity and they're not speaking out against this, they're involved one way or another, right? People like Joe Rogan, I'm not really that big of a fan. He denies Pizzagate. He doesn't want to talk about, he came from Hollywood. That's where he spent a lot of his years. He probably has a lot of friends that went to Epstein Island. Maybe there's a reason why he doesn't talk about Pizzagate. So all this stuff, we really have to question it and really choose where you're going to invest your time and your attention. What movies are you watching, if any? What do you, where are you spending your money? We vote with our dollars, we vote with our vote, and we vote with our attention. So we can control those things very easily. So everyone can take, think about where do I put my attention? May want to look into it. So I've shifted my whole thing. I haven't watched television in probably a couple of years. I've watched maybe 2 movies in the last year. But I'm having more fun than ever before, right? I'm
Yeah.
I'm loving life, so I'm okay. I don't need to be around the same people I was, years ago, that still are in this old mindset, or that don't want to, you know, believe or look into what's really going on. If they want to live in a parallel reality, that's fine. You can, have fun. But
Yeah.
I'm on this mission, so I'm gonna
Yeah, right.
align with the people on it.
And it changes even how you function. Like even when you go to like family functions or around certain like circles, it changes how you can even function in those settings because it's no longer in alignment, and then you just see the world from a different view. And I'll always say if that energy is forced and I don't align with it, I'm just like, oh, I don't really care to do it. And for us, we're always talking about where are you putting your money? So taking back that dollar, taking back your energy, because again, energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to the another. So for me, I'm always like looking at where am I giving my time to? What am I giving my money to? Yes, we speak out and we, especially when it comes to human trafficking. I know people are often like, well, where do you even start first? And it ties and I want to go into the mindset and your thoughts.
Mhm.
And social media can be very toxic. So going off of that, I know years ago, one thing that I personally did was, especially when it came to human trafficking, I went through every social media platform I had and started deleting every blue check mark and anyone tied to someone who was tied to a celebrity. And when you do that, you see how they all connect and how it all, like, you can see the toxicity of it. But once you start to unfollow and change what you're seeing, it and add more influential stuff, it really changes your mindset and how you feel, because now you don't have all this toxic, I would say, drama and like Hollywood energy on your page. Yeah, it's still pushed because of censorship, but now you're seeing, now like we see, especially like on my page, we see more of like the human trafficking, we see more of the conservative artists, we see like art, entrepreneurship, like you see something that will make you become a better person and how to better one another or the world around you. So once you shift yourself and you go inner and heal yourself and be like, okay, am I a part of this problem? And that was one thing once, like I personally learned about it. It's like, how can I see and know all this and not do anything about it? Like that means I'm a part of the problem and have blood on my hands if this was to happen. So I completely agree with that message as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I can only imagine the next time I go to like a family function and someone mentions like something, I'm just gonna, have you heard about this? Did you know about this? Oh, let me show you this article. What do you think about that? Yeah, because I'm definitely not the same person I was 2 years ago. So
And yeah, I'm the crazy one in my family, and
yep,
nobody really, it's funny, you're crazy until what you say is true. And so for COVID, for us, my family, at least thank God, my family won't get the jab, because I was like, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. Like, I swear you cannot do it. Like, stop. And so at least they're there, but then they didn't want to believe all the stuff. And I'm in the background getting all of the medicine just in case someone gets sick. And like literally the day it comes in, Bridget grabbed it from a family friend. And the day it gets in, my parents are like, we have COVID. And I was like, and what I think, and this is my story, I'm sticking to it. My dad goes golfing and his buddies are vaccinated. And I think that they spike proteined him when he had a cold. And so that's what sent it down. So of course, me and all my, I'll go stupidity, but I thought it was smart at the time, decided to go sit with them, because I was like, well, if I'm going to catch it, I'm going to catch it. Like, let's just be done, because I have all the medicine. Well, it wasn't the smartest move, but anyway, I'm here to tell the story.
a true warrior, a true warrior.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
going
Like,
in.
whatever. But like, of the 13 people in my family, 13 people got it and we're fine. So whatever. But now all of a sudden, my uncle who lives in Florida, he kind of slightly digs in the rabbit holes. Like he hears some stories and whatever, like his family's vaccinated, but he's not. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. And my dad's like, you need to talk to Becky. Becky knows really a lot about this stuff. And I was like, I've been saying this shit for a year and a half, and now you're going to say I know something? Like, what the hell? And so now they kind of teeter on the fence of, I mean, the other stuff she said was right. So should we believe this stuff, or is she still crazy or whatever? And so I just kind of, it's hard to be in those situations. Like we were over at my brother's and they were doing a playoff game. We don't even watch football anymore. But if I don't participate in some of those things, I'll never see my family. So you just kind of like, okay, I'll just sit on my phone while the game is playing, because I don't really care. Like I don't want any of it. And so you're kind of at a space now, or I find I'm at a space where the only way I'm going to see my family is if I can not be the crazy one for 5 minutes and just be like, all right, I'm not going to address this, but you already know, and we'll pretend it's not on. Like
the sign on my forehead says.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just wear a shirt that says this is stupid, the NFL is awful, or whatever. You'll get the hint.
Right. Yep.
Do you think people will ever, like, I really truly feel like some of this is a trance. Like I don't know how you inform people, because it really is I don't want to see what's happening because this is a lot more fun than trying to figure it out. I'd rather watch movies and go to sporting events and go to concerts and do all this stuff. I don't want to do it because you're going to knock my life off kilter. How do we ever get over that? Or do we?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think everyone's different, right? Everyone's on their own path. One thing that I do with family or friends, I don't share a lot of stuff with them because I mean, I've had discussions with a few of them, and we're just on different understandings of it. But when I see just like so many crazy news stories, every now and then I'll send one over and just like, what do you think of this? Or have you heard of this yet? Like whatever it is that, the fact that certain races can't get certain treatments in a hospital. I'm like, what do you think about this? Do you think that's okay?
Yeah.
And then, or, have you heard of the Canadian trucker convoy that's happening? Probably not, because if you just watch mainstream media, I mean, now I guess part of it are talking about it, but those fringe terrorists. But just so I just like share like some things like here and there that they're not going to see in the mainstream. Like, what do you think of this? And just kind of everything's like a seed planted. Whether it's, for me, when I was what even got me into like all the Q stuff and learning about child sex trafficking, I was on Instagram and a friend of mine shared a post, and this was I believe it was 2020, but he shared a post of oh God, what's that dude's name? The fat Hollywood
Alex
producer. No, Hollywood producer guy who's arrested for
Harvey
Weinstein. Yeah. So someone shared like a post about him, about how he allegedly talked to the feds or whatever and name names and drop seeds about all these other things and blah blah. And I'm like, wait, what? Because I wasn't even paying attention to it. I'm like, what's he doing? What? And then I saw like all these like CEO resignations, and I'm like, wait a second, what's going on? So I just started like researching it, right? But that was just my friend posted something on Instagram. He didn't send it to me directly. I just happened to see it, and it caught my attention. And I'm like, well, wait a second, got to research this. So I mean, it could be on Instagram or social media. It could be a casual conversation. You could be talking with someone in a restaurant or something, and someone else overhears it, and you have no idea the impact that it has. So I think it just depends. Follow your intuition, but also just kind of like plant seeds. Like, what, have you heard about this yet? What do you think about this? Does this seem normal? Right. So, and the crazy things like that are happening in the news, just getting more and more crazy. It's like, what do you think of this? Like, is this okay to you? Like, I mean, so.
That's kind of where I am now too, especially as I'm starting to want to hear people's mindset on things. Like, why do you still put a mask on or put it on your children? Or not like, really, what is your mindset behind it? What is your thought behind it? What? Because again, I can sit here and be like, you're an idiot, and you look at me and you think I'm an idiot and I'm trying to kill everybody. But like, we all have this new information. Even on mainstream, they now are telling us this new information. So why are you doing this? Because is it because you're afraid? Is it because you still are social justicing? Is it because it's now become a habit? Like, that's my, like, I would talk to my husband about that a lot. It's like, I'd love to just sit down with people and go, but why?
Mhm.
I don't know how I'll ever get there,
Yeah.
but
I think from at least my perception of it is like people, whatever they get in the mainstream media, like that becomes their truth. Like, oh, they said, masks save lives, and no, this doctor says it on television. Not only is it a doctor, it's a doctor on television.
right.
Like, whoa. And then different celebrities are talking about it. Other news platforms, other celebrities they might, follow are talking about it. So it just becomes this metaverse in and of itself of just this like fabricated reality of just tremendous propaganda. So, I mean, my mindset, it's interesting because it's like I've been exposed to more crazy things that are going on in this world, and yet I'm still pretty optimistic. I got a pretty good attitude. I'm happy most of the time. So for me, I'm like, wow, this is insane. But this isn't the
Yeah.
end. Like, this isn't the end. Like,
Yeah.
we're going through it. I think it was Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Yep.
Right. So we're just going to keep going. And there's a great awakening happening. There's definitely a lot of things that we're not aware of happening. I think the evildoers or the dark side is doing whatever they can to suppress. But I feel like,
Yeah,
and I mean, again, the
crack pipes.
Canadian, was that?
I said we're handing out crack pipes now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like,
That's many better.
But even that is going to wake up someone that's like, whoa, wait, what?
I was just arrested for this last week, and now you're what the hell?
It's like, what the hell, man?
Now you're gonna give me a kit and tell me to be sanitary, but you don't care about the homeless, like living out on the street, pissing on themselves. Like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy. So this decade is going to be very, very interesting, to say the least, because a lot of us probably know they want to have their whole like smart robot humanity by 2030 or whatever, where you'll own nothing and be happy. So I definitely think there's a huge shift happening right now. Again, even with like the Canadian convoy, and that's happening in other places, assuming it's not a controlled mission that someone else is operating behind the scenes. So far, it seems okay. But anyway, regardless of that, it signifies the mass awakening of people. Like if I were to guess, the majority of Canadians are aware of something that's going on, and it's not normal. You had Trudeau's head of security just resigned like yesterday or 2 days ago, and he said, I took an oath. I have to follow my oath. So there's more and more of this happening. I think people like us, the fact that we were aware of all this stuff, before a lot of other people, we're like, what is going on, right? What is going on? And at the same time, like, we're late to the party because there's people that have been aware of this stuff since like the 90s or whatever.
Right.
Like I was watching this whistleblower from the 1990s who was working on underground bases. And he talked about it in the 90s on how he saw these different life forms. He said, they're torturing children and getting adrenochrome and all this stuff. And I'm like, wait, so this whistleblower is talking about this in the 90s.
And here we are 30 years later.
What is going on? Like, where has this been? So there's definitely things happening, and it's going to take maybe longer than some of us want it to. But when we realize we have billions of people on the planet that have been programmed, kept asleep, whatever we want to call it, for decades, if not more, then we kind of have a little bit of better understanding. And then again, it's up to us. Like, what can we do? What can we do to do better? Like, what can we hand out flyers to someone? Can we have more conversations? Can we create more content? Like, what are things that we can do to help speed this up? And I think that's what so many people are doing, but there's like a lot of people are also confused. Like, well, what can I do? What do I do? So I have a feeling there's something behind that as well, whether it's these 5G towers and EMFs or whatever. But there's definitely some stuff going on. Because even in Michael Aquino's book, Mind War, I don't know if you ever read that, but Michael Aquino, the Satanist who was in the
he's nuts.
Yeah. So in his book, he even talks about using frequency weapons and extremely low frequency waves and how that can impact people's emotions and other things. And so I'm like, okay, if they got this technology, for decades, that I wouldn't be surprised if it's being used across the entire country right now to keep people in their homes and whatever other programs they have, because they've got programs coming out through, and not just talking about the actual show, but I'm talking about like frequencies and subliminal messages that are coming out through the television, probably through the cell phones. I don't know how exactly they do it, if it's through the cell phone or if it's through the something else, but whatever. There's definitely some frequencies. Yeah, exactly. So my invisible tinfoil hat is working wonderfully well.
Well, even I think the whole Travis Scott concert, that should have shown a lot of people everything, especially when it comes to frequency and the music and the frequency that's kept in that music to keep people at a lower vibration and how that's adjusted to that. And if you haven't gone down that rabbit hole, that's one frequency to and one show to tune into, because people don't realize they just think they're going to a concert. They don't realize what they're really giving their energy to and the energy harvesting that comes out of that. And they're being part of a satanic ritual in live setting. And it's like, whoa, like, do you not feel that? And no different than we go back to like trusting your intuition. When you get that bad gut check and you're like, something just doesn't feel right and it's off, but you can't always figure it out. But then later you're like, oh, that's what it was. So even once you realize as you deprogram, your alignment and your mindset changes. Now, going back into mindset, what are some things that have helped you when it comes to deprogramming and really having that discernment and switch off to open your mindset?
Yeah, it's a good question there. So, and maybe this will get a little new agey. I don't know, but this
I was
is
just
a
going to
very
yell at her for saying new age because she's talking about frequencies and all that stuff. So,
yeah. But this is a very simple process that I've learned that is incredibly effective, because what happens is over the years, we have trauma. We have whether it happens as a kid, whether a person is abused or just some version of trauma, we hold on to those memories, that either the pain, the memory, whatever. And so we have these in our cells, in our body. And so that it can affect our health, that can affect our relationships and everything. And most of the times we have no idea that it's even there. So one thing that's really helped my mindset overall, aside from like reading books, being around other people that are positive minded, have goals, are going places, like that really helps. But also just understanding what limiting beliefs or what programs do I have that I need to like let go of to get past this. And so one thing is called the Sedona method, but it's very, very powerful and simple. It's the simplest, most effective thing I've ever found to kind of get rid of negative emotions or blocks. And so let's say if anyone's like angry or frustrated or stressed or scared or whatever, any strong negative emotion, you can do this simple process with 4 questions that's really effective. So number 1, you ask, once you're like feeling it, if you put a label on it, I feel angry, I feel frustrated, whatever, once you have that, you say, okay, could I allow this to be? Can I allow this feeling to be there? Okay, yes or no. Then could you let it go? Yes or no. Would you let it go? And then when? So if someone realizes, okay, I'm frustrated, could you allow it to be? Like, could you allow the frustration? Well, yeah, I feel it. Okay, yeah, I can allow it. It's there. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you let it go? Well, even just asking that question, like a lot of times, like I just feel the energy like shift, because I'm like, whoa, if I know I can hold on to it or allow it, I also have the power to let it go. Could I let it go? Okay. Would I let it go? Oh, when? And then like just asking those questions, like almost every single time, I feel a difference, because I realize, oh, I'm not this emotion. I'm holding on to this emotion. So if I'm holding on to it, well, that means I can let it go. Oh, would I let it go? Am I willing to? Yeah, I'm willing. Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe a little bit. But I mean, that's the process. And then when? Now, okay. And how do you feel? Same or different? And then you could do that. So for me, that really helps, because if I'm like frustrated about something, a lot of times it's not just the thing that's in front of me that's causing me the irritation. It's whatever that triggered that happened however many years ago. So doing a process like that can just allow that to not be in my field or my aura or whatever, and not in my body anymore. And so that trigger doesn't have the same effect. So now if I see something, this person talking about something, it doesn't like trigger me, or I don't have the same reaction, because I don't have that emotional cause that triggered that in the first place. So that's been very helpful for my mindset overall.
I really like that because I didn't know it actually had like a name and had a whole thing, but I've done that before where like I'm just gonna sit in this annoyance. Just give me 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes to sit in this annoyance because I feel like I need to get through it and then I'll let it go. But if you just don't ever talk about what it is or you don't address that it's there, then it just simmers underneath. But it's not this idea like, well, just because you can, well, I know I'm angry, so I'm just going to turn it off. Although you can, sometimes I just want to be angry for a hot second and then I'll let it go after that. But at least you can, like, because you're acknowledging it. It's not just something that's hidden.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people do kind of by default. Oh, I feel angry. Let me eat something, or let me watch TV, or let me do something else. But again, that's sort of like the pushing the thing under the rug. Oh, well, children are being kidnapped and raped. No. Nope. Let me eat some food, or let me do some other things to bury that. And it just football. Like, yeah, exactly. So it just keeps the volcano like preventing it from erupting. And at some point, like what we're seeing now, I think we're just seeing the corruption volcano, or whatever you want to phrase it. But I think we're just having this like global energy volcano or something. I don't know. We're just letting all this stuff out because it has to, it has to get out because this isn't a sustainable way of living. Like the dollar can't do that. All this like corruption that's going on, that's not sustainable. What we're doing to the environment, like that's not, all this stuff has to like come out so that people can realize, whoa, it's not what I don't live in the world I think I did. So that we can then, change. So I think it's definitely happening. We're going to see, this is going to be a very interesting year. And what comes of this one, I mean, who can predict what 2023 will bring?
Right.
Yeah. Now, but even like we're, we have like all these different, governors in the states, like taking away their mask mandates now. It's like, what are you doing? I don't trust you. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Come on.
Like, don't you realize elections are coming up?
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what someone was saying. So they're like, oh no, we're the good guys. Yeah, no, you can take your masks off, but you got to be vaccinated to go vote in person, right? Or whatever, right? Like I don't know, but
don't worry, you don't need an ID. Here's your crack pipe.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Can I vote with my crack pipe? Does that work?
And people don't realize, like, what I don't understand is how people stay in general. They're trying to understand or don't know how to make sense of it. But if you're listening and you're trying to figure out like how to even wrap your head around this, I would say relate it to your worst relationship and the toxicity of going back and the abuse of that. And you're slow fed. And it's like, okay, they said what I wanted. They did what I wanted. Everything was all good for a short time frame, and then it went back to the same behavior. Now look at what the government is doing. You're getting it in small doses, and they're mentally killing people off slowly, and it's truly mind-blowing to see how I still don't understand how people can't see it yet. But then I'm like, oh, so many are on a different path and journey, and mentally they have to slowly awaken, because if not, like, the world mentally is already at a breaking point. But to have so many people, you can't just throw all of this at everybody and be like, oh, hey, here, in your face. Even though it's in your face, it's like people would really start committing suicide at a higher rate than it's already at. So when it comes to how do you deal with trolls and projection, especially when you talk about the topics you do, and online bullying, like when it comes to projection in your mindset, how do you stay in the light and not get sucked back into that dark energy?
Yeah, so it's a really good question and good concept too for everyone. So one thing that I have found just over the years, not necessarily with just trolls online or anything, but just in general, what I have found is, as my mindset would be more focused on the positive and good things that are happening, that's been kind of and as I would like let go of old limiting beliefs, I don't have the same like triggers as I used to. And also it doesn't happen as much as it might have used to, because again, we're putting out a frequency with our thoughts and our emotions and all these things. And that's what's coming back to us. And so if a troll happens to be like, or, you know, oh, you're this, or you're stupid, or you're this, or you're that, for me, I know who I am. So to me, it's like, it's funny because either this person has literally nothing better to do than to look at my stuff and then just like talk crap about it. I mean, that's more of a reflection of them than me. But I also see like other people, they have their own opinions, right? Now, if someone's like, you know, hardcore Christian, and because I say the word energy, they now think I'm Satan or something. Like, I can't argue with that. I'm like, okay, well, you obviously have a different viewpoint than I do. We can either agree to focus on what the real issues are, or you can just be a little, you know, a little child and like scream and kick or whatever, this little tantrum you're having. So I either just kind of understand they're at a different viewpoint and I'll like ask questions, like for some, I'll post stuff on Instagram about things related to the pandemic or whatever. And then some people will be like, it's like, oh, this is just BS. How dare you? You know, masks save lives. And then, so I'll just like ask questions. And I mean, sometimes I've got like a kind of a sarcastic sense of humor. So I might like, you know, I might be a little sharp with my responses, but I mean, it's whatever. I'll ask questions. I'll be a little over the edge to like help them think differently or like wake up from their thing, or I'll just block them. Like if someone's just like nasty or whatever, it's like I don't even need that on my page. Like this is my home. I'm not just going to let someone like come in and like stomp dirty shoes all over my house and, you know, throw stuff all over and then be like, oh well, you know. Gotta let people be. It's like, no, this is my space. You can leave and you have the freedom to do whatever you want on your own platform or whatever. So it's just, it's a unique situation based on the circumstance, but those are some of the things I typically do.
Yeah, I'm all about I'll let you say your piece and I'll respond. But then if it's at Lennon, I'm like, all right, you're done. Like we can either be polite about it or we can not. And if we're not, then goodbye.
Yeah. And I mean, if people have like a genuine question, like great, let's have a discussion. But
conversation.
Yeah, exactly. But there's, a difference between like, you're stupid, how dare you, or whatever.
Some bot out there making you look stupid.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah. It's ridiculous. I can't, it would probably blow our minds to see how many AI bots are a percentage of like these social media accounts. Like I get, it's big on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter anymore. Not that I was banned. I just said, okay, it's one of the biggest platforms for child porn. Like I don't want anything to do with Twitter. But anyway, so it's like, everything's
fake. That's probably the hardest part about like waking up and doing all of this is like, nothing is real. And even like you brought up earlier, the convoy in Canada and the idea of if it's opposition. Now I have no idea if it's opposition. Now, do I feel like I was talking to my husband, I'm like, it could have started that way. Like, that's why it got so much traction is because they allowed so much traction. Like the media will only allow so much to go through before they shut it all down. Like that's how social media and all that stuff works. But I don't think that they realized how big it would really get. And now I don't believe that it's opposition anymore. Now it may have started that way and like, oh yeah, hoorah. But now I really think that it's like, this is real and people are done with it. And it's funny because and this again is no knock on anyone else, but if you've ever met a Canadian, they are literally the nicest humans in all of the land, which is why them being the first to stand up is the wildest thing because they have hit their mark. Like
it's so great.
They're done.
I was watching some of these updates where there's like, this video of like, oh, this person is giving money to a trucker and other people are giving them food and other people are like bringing them gas. And I'm just like, that's so Canada. Like, I love it. Like how nice can we be in this like protest against against evil? We'll just say.
Right. And then like, now they're all walking with like, some people have empty gas cans and some people don't. And like, find the one that has the real gas.
Yeah, exactly. These clever, kind Canadians, I swear.
Well, and that's what's so crazy because of course all mainstream media and all their dumbness is trying to like make it that these are bad people. But like, if you've ever met a Canadian, you can't even believe that would be true because it's not. And then even the people like, of course, the three of us, we see videos because we don't watch all the nonsense, but like they're praying over the one guy with the picket saying like, these people are evil. And they're like, God, please watch over this man, blah, blah, blah. Or the police that are stealing their gas, they're praying over those guys or helping them out. Like, what? That is what, how we need to live. Like, I don't agree with you, but we're going to go into this and we're going to bring love and light and we're going to get through it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really impressive to see.
It is.
I mean, this is Canadian history. Like for centuries, they're going to be talking about this, which is amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're leading a good example for literally the rest of the world on what it is to be kind. And I often will say on our podcast, COVID exposed America and literally showed like how materialistic we are. And now everything else is coming out. So they're leading by example, showing how to spread kindness.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's gonna be great to see, how this unfolds. Cause I mean, I don't know. It's been about 2 weeks almost, I think, since they started. I'm not sure what's going on with the US one. I don't know. Like anytime there's like a big group of something that's like, wait a second, where's this? Who set this up? What's going on? I don't understand.
It's supposedly supposed to start the 12th of February. I've heard two. I've heard one where it's supposed to start Saturday, like this coming Saturday. And then I've heard one that starts in March. But there was one guy who came on and it was fantastic. He's like, why are we going to DC? They're already expecting us in DC. Why would we go there? Why don't we just go to the border and block the border? Yep. And then when people come down are like, where's our trucker convoy? We're at the southern border blocking the entire way because now nothing is happening. And now all of these politicians who are in their midterms that want to know what's going on, they're all down at the border. Oh, and now we have the media, and now the media is down at the border. And it's like, all right, let's do it. Let's go park outside the Super Bowl on Sunday and stop all that crap too.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard there's, truckers going out there. We'll see what that is, but I have a feeling there's going to be something going on. And I don't know if I forget the guy's name, but he's Border Wars AZ on Telegram, but he's down at the border. And that's like a few days ago, he had a call to action. He's like, all truckers, bring your trucks down here. We have the space. We have the land. We don't need anyone's permission. We own it. Come down here. We need cool. your big rigs to help with this stuff. So, and I saw another video from him earlier today, and he was basically saying like, we need more people, and we're done dealing with the government. We're not going to sue them or whatever. He's like, no, this is God and God's people are going to be doing this work. He's like, we're not relying on the government to do anything. He's like, they're the ones that are participating in this, child trafficking and drug trafficking or whatever, all that's going on down there. So there's definitely things happening.
Well, and I love it because we just had Jaco Boyens on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how 80% of the border is private property. And so the government isn't helping. So they're only really following through on 20% of the border that's even down there. So now we have all these people. And again, then they make the ranchers out to look like bad guys, like they're whipping the illegals with their, like, come on, this is ridiculous. So yeah, hell yeah, let's get out there and do something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I would say too, with our state and the border being open, that's extremely awesome to hear, because we also have a Satan con. So
I heard about that.
But we have a Satan con in Arizona tomorrow through, I think, like just before Valentine's Day.
Monday.
Yeah. So it's crazy, but it's honestly, I'm going to say it's a blessing, as far as it's literally making people be like, wait, what? Like that one. Definitely don't worship Satan. So don't take that out of context.
Sound clip.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'm saying it's a blessing because people saw the flyer with literally Satan, was like, wait, what? This is happening right up the street where my kids are and where families are walking up and down the street. Like, this is open in the public. Yeah, that's happening. So for me, I'm like, thank you. Like something will, hopefully this will make you see, like, we aren't conspiracy theorists. This is happening in your backyard, whether you want to believe it or not. Sad it has to take something like that to be like, yeah, Satanists are hanging out in your neighborhood, but it's like, hello, there's pedophiles right next door to you and you don't want to believe it. So it's crazy to see what's going on in the world right now.
Yep.
Something new every day.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's interesting because I have even my coworkers, like, because again, I was telling you before, like I quit my job. I was sick and tired of dealing with the corporate BS and whatever. And I've had so many people say, "Oh, Becky, you're doing such a good thing, and thank you for standing up," and blah blah blah, because they also don't agree, but they won't say anything. And I'm not saying everyone should quit their job. Like, that's not what I mean. But are you speaking out? Are you saying, no, this isn't right? Even if you are you're not on the right side of history, but on the right side of whatever they're requiring, are you still saying, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lose my job, but I don't think that's right? Or you're making everybody take inclusion training except excluding people. So like, are we speaking out against that? Because as we were talking earlier, all of the nonsense that's happening with, and I'm not saying, again, not saying nonsense to knock anyone down, so don't take this as a clip either, but the transgenderism in schools and the sex ed and the young, so many people disagree with it, but nobody will say enough. We've been raised to like, oh, we don't talk about politics, we don't talk about sex, we don't talk about religion, so nobody's going to say anything. But the majority of people don't say anything. So the other side is like, yep, here we go, we're going to do this now because you're not speaking out about it. We've got to start talking.
Yeah, for sure. That even I had like a aha moment. I think it was in 2020, and at that time I was on Twitter, and I was like, following all these people, all these anons, and sharing all this stuff, and Obamagate, and I'm like, oh, how many times can I retweet this? Let's make it trend. I'm like, how many times can I tweet this before actually something happens? And then I realized like, oh, it doesn't care how many people tweet about it. That's not what the politicians look at. Like, who cares, right? We have to like be at their house or near their house or whatever, doing things where they're aware of what's going on. That's why I like the idea of like, once we find out stuff about politicians, local elected officials, whatever, like, let's put them on flyers and let's ask questions. Hey, is this person corrupt? Hey, is this person a pedophile? Yep. I'm not accusing them. I'm just asking, if there's interesting connections. Oh, why did they do this? I don't know. Let's put up flyers and stickers and all this kind of stuff and put out their information so people can contact them and ask them about it. Because that's how they're going to see if they're walking down the street and they like look at a flagpole and they're like, oh my God, why is my face on there? Am I what? So it's like, we gotta get in their face one way or another.
That's actually fantastic. Where they're like, am I a pet? No, I'm not a pedophile.
Who made this?
About it then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And if they don't address it, you just assume they are.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I want to see your opinion and thoughts on what else we could do in the community and starting in our area as far as those who want to get involved and say they aren't ready to speak out and use social media as a platform or a podcast or however that may look like. Say if they feel they want to do something more hands-on or like kind of behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I will often say, it's sad that people will put a missing dog poster up before they will a missing child. So what do you think people can do in their community kind of to help make that shift? Because I love the example that you just used is questioning and putting, whether it's the politician or your local school teacher or whatever might be going on in your community. I love that example of what you just used, but what are some other ideas or thoughts on what we can do as a community to help this shift and really make it not a taboo topic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. I think everyone's going to be kind of unique in what they can do. Definitely it's good to get outside your comfort zone. So it's like, oh, I'm not comfortable with that. Well, life begins on the outside of your comfort zone. So consider getting outside of your comfort zone to do other things. But you could also handing out flyers or putting them places or stickers. There's, things you could do, basically like sharing it online in different groups. Like a person can do kind of whatever they want. I know one thing that Allie has also mentioned is like one thing people can do is like go to the foster care places in your city and hang out with the foster children or give them gifts and, show them an example that people do care. So I think there's a lot of things that people can do. It's just, what do they want to do? What are they willing to do? And, how much do they want to do? Because there's a world full of stuff that they can do. But, I think it's up to each person to kind of decide, and, they can pray about it. What God guide me? What am I meant to do? What can I do? How can I best serve? Stuff like that.
Yeah, because I don't think that, we've said this a couple times on here, I don't think that everybody can do everything. And even in the trafficking movement, there are multiple silos of people. There are people who are going and kicking the door down and saving kids and getting them out. That is not me. I will never be that sort of person. Then there are people who have safe houses and bring the kids in and help them and help heal them with their trauma and different things like that. And then there are people like us who are out here just advocating and informing people and doing whatever. But all of those are important. If this is not your thing, go sit on a school board, go yell at the school board people, go make sure the teachers aren't teaching crap, go make sure that get rid of the juice mandates, go do, like, there is a, like you said, there's a world of opportunity of nonsense going out.
When you said juice mandates, I'm like, wait, are they mandating juice in schools? That's great. I'm like, oh no, you mean the other thing.
Yeah, that won't get us knocked off the platform. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
But
I'm like, it's about time they're making kids drink juice. Yes.
You mean there's not soda? Come on,
Wait
get them in there with juice. What the heck?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yes, healthy eating.
Now, for our listeners, how can we support what you're doing? And I know that you talked about your clothing line and entrepreneurship. Can you share a little bit about your clothing line, Humanity Activated, and your mission with that?
Yeah, sure. So that, it's funny because the first company that I created was a clothing company, which was about 15 years ago. And then this Humanity Activated is more of a new project business that I have launched in the past few months. So if anyone wants to look at some of what we're doing, humanityactivated.com, that's another way people can spread the message. You could wear a t-shirt, that says something in particular, whether it's American Patriot, whether it's Pure Blood, whether it's F your gene therapy, like whatever it is, people can get a shirt or, hoodie or whatever to kind of put out that vibe, put out that message. And I mean, if you walk down the street in an American Patriot t-shirt or hoodie or whatever, if you find other patriots, they're like, it might be easier to connect with people that are like-minded if you're putting out, if you're wearing something that makes it clear kind of what you're about. So people can do that. You guys can, follow me on Instagram at Life by Jared James, share any content that you want, and just keep researching and sharing the truth in whatever way you can. That'd be the best way to help me, because my mission is to help awaken humanity. So whatever you can do with that would be probably the greatest gift that I could ask for, because I'm just here figuring out what the heck has been going on, sharing that message. And if that can ripple out to other people, that's amazing. And so, if you're watching this, you can have an impact greater than you ever thought possible. I had started a Facebook page maybe 6 months ago, and I was looking at the stats on it, and I reached almost, it was over 800,000 people in a month. And I'm like, whoa, power of the memes.
Yeah,
but I mean, like I had no idea, I had no idea that I could, reach that many people. And so I'm just one person sharing memes. Like, what can a person who's, sharing more memes or, doing other types of content, like who knows how far it can reach. There's this video that I had that I saw this guy. I think he was in Arizona, but this guy, he had a beard, but he was basically talking to these two ladies. And
he's in Sedona. He's the certified health nut.
Yeah. The certified health nut.
He's the coolest guy ever. Yeah.
I found that video of him talking to the two ladies about the mask stuff. I saw that video before I knew who he was. Mm-hmm. I shared that on my Facebook, and I've actually been, running ads to him. It's got over 1 million views on it. Just from that, I'm like, okay, like great. So I mean, that one video has over 1 million views. I don't even think he knows about it, but I mean that I'm promoting it. But I mean, that's just an example, right? So everything has an effect, has an impact. So whatever you can do, whether it's a positive thought, whether it's reading a book, whether it's talking to someone, whether it's sharing information, just keep progressing forward. And that's the best thing that I could recommend.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Now, how do you deal with adversity in your day-to-day life, especially if you're facing something or struggling with something in your personal life, or even with you speaking out? And like, because I know for even with the topics we talk about, energy can you can often take on a lot. So when you go to unwind, like how do you deal with adversity in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for me, and this is why I think personal development, like mindset training, is so important for everyone to do, especially like in these times where there's so much like chaos. If you're not prepared or trained to know how to like deal with it, it could be very overwhelming. So for me, one thing that I do is I realize that no matter what happens in my life, it is a good thing because I use it to my advantage. I have a belief that I've just repeated for years. Everything works to my ultimate advantage. Everything works to my ultimate advantage. So if something happens that appears to be bad, I'm like, oh my God, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know why this is good. I have no idea why this is good, but this is good. And so I've just kind of like programmed myself to have that attitude. And so that really helps. So anytime we call those pop the champagne moments, if something goes crazy, pop the champagne, it's time to celebrate. Like, I don't know why this is good. So just having that kind of attitude of knowing that it looks bad, it looks crazy or whatever it is, but somehow this is working to my advantage. Somehow this is good. I don't know how this is good yet, but I know this is good. That definitely helps. And then also just kind of on a daily basis, like programming myself by like, reading inspiring books and writing and doing that to help like reprogram myself. And this is like a continuous thing. Cause again, I grew up kind of, regular. So like I was watching Disney movies and all this other playing video games and all this other stuff. So I have all this, music and rap and all this stuff. So I have it all in there. I just have to deprogram and reprogram. So it's a process, but the most important thing is just putting in new good information and then just, getting rid of the bad. And then anytime something comes up, again, kind of in, as you're going through this, you could do like the Sedona method or like, tapping, emotional freedom technique. That's another technique. So there's other kind of things you can do to help like turn the focus away or eliminate the negative so that you can just like feel better more naturally. So that works well. I have like a miniature trampoline. So it's called a rebounder. Those are incredibly amazing. You jump on that thing for like 3 seconds, your mood improves. It's really good for your health.
I'd probably pee my pants. I mean,
it's super affordable. Well, okay. Just let go.
Let
Just
it
go.
go.
Yeah. So there's different things that I do. I'll listen to, classical music or 432 hertz music. I'll listen to, specific things with that to help just kind of raise the vibe, increase the goodness, we'll say. So there's just a variety of things that I do over the years and that can be very helpful.
Awesome.
Get you back into the positive vibes. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, especially because like you said earlier, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. And you can either be like, oh my God, the world is going crazy. Or you'd be like, all right, wow, this is crazy. All right, let's see what happens tomorrow. Like you have a choice to either be like, well, see what 2022 brings.
Yeah. And another thing that I'll mention real quick is also like, we're in the world. We're not of the world. Right. So this isn't the final picture. Right. So I believe this isn't my first life. I'll just put that out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So if this is my first life, a lot of things come naturally. Things just make sense. Certain things just make sense to me. This is, we're living in a physical reality that this isn't real. Like we're made of, energy, whatever, vibrate, whatever you want to call it. We're not made of physical matter. Yeah. We're made up of non-physical matter. And so we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And so if that's the case, okay, things that happen in the physical, that's not the end. That's not the end. So even if there were an atomic bomb dropping or whatever, we all just evaporated. Okay, well, we're on to the next thing. We're back to the source from which we came from. And now we're, whatever. So that we can come back 1,000 years from now when there is the golden age or, whatever it's limitless. So for me, This is just like, okay, this is an experience we're having. And if something is off or bad or negative or whatever, we could, again, use it to our advantage. Somehow this is good. What can I do? How can I make this good? What's good about this? What could be good about this? So that's one thing. And then also realize, okay, physical isn't the final. So what could I do as a spiritual being in this physical experience to help shift this, right? So there can be like more of a game within that.
Yeah, and I always say like either we're gonna see it go to that golden age, like we're really gonna watch it go through to that, or we're gonna blow up and we're gonna go back to wherever is better. Like there's no bad way at this point. Like it's all kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
so enjoy the ride.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really do not see, like, I don't see this like totalitarian slave society that, you know, these evildoers want. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't resonate as like that
Neither.
it'll happen. I don't know. So
They're gonna
that's,
try. They're definitely
well,
gonna
yeah, they're doing
try.
everything. Yeah, they're doing everything they can.
But
Yeah.
I
Without
don't
without triggering the normies to see anything's weird. Like,
Mhm.
no,
Right.
nothing to see here. We're
Here's your
just,
Super Bowl. Sit down and shut up.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
We're like, if an alien pops out tomorrow, we'll be like, hey, take us with you. ET phone home, like, let's go.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where these ETs are going.
Yeah, that's
I
true
don't know.
because there could be some
That's a
bad
whole,
ones.
that's a
We don't
whole
want
other,
those
that's a
bad
whole other
ones.
thing.
Yeah, we don't know what that is.
True.
Yeah.
But nothing would surprise me anymore. Like that's the thing that is for me. It's like, do I know that that thing is true? No. Do I know that that thing is true? No. But I know that it's all parts of something. So I just take it as, well, now I have knowledge. And if something happens tomorrow, well, I wasn't so surprised.
Right.
Yeah.
If you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what would you say? I'm going to put you on the spot. Sorry.
Perfect. That you are more powerful than you realize. Your thoughts, your emotions are significant. Pay attention to them. Direct them toward the ends in which you want. You have more abilities, capabilities, power within you than we could even become aware of. So anything that anyone else can do, you can do. You could potentially do it better. Follow your bliss. There's a reason why certain things that excite you, certain things resonate with you, that you want to learn about things or explore things. So I would say pursue that. Realize that you are a spiritual being having a physical experience. You're more than you see. You're more than you perceive. So explore that, honor that, and yeah, do whatever you feel called to live your best life, for lack of a better term.
Amen.
Thank you again for joining our podcast. We truly appreciate having you. And we will make sure to link everything for his website and all social media handles in our show notes. As always, just really sit back and remember the power of one can move mountains. You have so much power. It starts with you. It starts with one person. And just remember, I am only one, but I am still one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And just because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something I can do. So continue to share the truth, like, share, subscribe, everyone who is sharing the truth, especially as more comes to light and censorship gets crazy. Just continue to be the light and know that you are powerful.
Confirmation.
You know it.
Amen.
Survivors, as always, we see you, we hear you, we stand by you, sending you love, light, and blessings.
Thank you all so much.